Good afternoon. George Cavaligos for HFT Bonds. All these moves are happening overnight, guys. Yesterday the market rallies overnight, and then we sit near the highs all day. This morning, I don't know what happened at 2 a.m. We couldn't find any news stories or whatever, but the market broke hard as soon as London came in, and then we sat near the lows all day. I'm going to try and buy a dip here tonight. That's my game plan. We're testing some important Fibonacci retracement levels, and if the market's turned and we have seen 5 waves down, which is kind of my favorite count right now, we should see a bounce out of here. 131.03 was the 618 retracement in the 10-year. We kind of traded through it in the bonds. 142.26 was the 618 retracement. 142.17, which is a little bit below the current lows at 21, is the 79% retracement, which is kind of an important level too. We start trading much below these fib retracements, and then we're talking about retesting the lows and maybe even making new lows and washing away, the idea that we finished 5 waves down at last week's lows, and now we should be working our way sideways to higher here in a corrective pattern. Well, I'm kind of encouraged by what's happening this afternoon. The bonds have kept making slightly lower lows as we're drifting basically near the lows all day, but the 10-years did not. Not only did not make new lows, they've held above their early morning lows at 05 plus. So I'm looking if we can get a little bit of selling again out of Asia, which, last night we didn't see any, but Asian stock markets were down, sort of following our stock markets. You got to imagine Asian stock markets are going to be up tonight, and Asian accounts will be selling treasuries a little bit. I'm looking for that 03 print in the 10-year. I want to try and get long down there with the stop below 30. I think if that happens, the bonds will probably trade at least down to 17, probably even a little bit lower. Below 17, you start getting overlap of the previous what I count as a 5-wave rally off of the lows. It's going to mess up the count pretty badly. So I don't want to see too much lower in the bonds, and the curve steepening is really keeping the bonds weak here, and the 10-year is holding up pretty well. 5s 30s at 235, 10s 30s at 121, 122. I think those are the recent highs. Those are not bullish scenarios, and that's kind of keeping me a little bit cautious here. So I'm going to try and buy the dip tonight in the Asian hours. It's going to be small, and make sure you have the stops in. You don't want to get caught with the falling knife in a body part that can be damaged. So we want to be careful here. Again, like I wrote in the morning email, the currencies are the problem that's driving this trade here. Japanese yen down 140. The Japanese government wanted the yen weaker. What if it gets out of control and they, see some kind of free-falling yen that starts some kind of a currency crisis? What if it happens elsewhere? And I do think that as we work our way through this, the mistakes that these central banks are making are going to cause problems in the currency markets that are going to reverberate through other markets. Initially, I don't think it's going to start here, but it could. At the moment, our central bank is the printer of, printer extreme, I guess you call it. The number one printer at the moment. The Japanese are promising to take up that mantle, but they're not there yet. So, watch the currencies is what I'm trying to say. Keep a wary eye on the yen. If that thing starts accelerating lower, you don't want to be long treasuries. That's the problem with trying to bottom fish this thing, But again, be careful. Use stops always, and we'll see how it works out here. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow morning.